Hey guys, what's up? It's Atil here for another video. I should have a pretty quick video for us today. Recently, I had somebody on Instagram ask me for a video on how I train my arms. So I thought it'd be good to put it on YouTube, and I might cover it a little bit on Instagram, but I can really ramble and I can talk a lot more about it on here. I do want to apologize for not providing any videos the last 2 or 3 weeks, but it was my birthday, and then I had some family stuff, just family fun and stuff to do, and YouTube is just kind of the platform where I'm going to put extra stuff when I have extra time to put out extra content. It's not really a big goal of mine to produce a lot of videos and make a bunch of high quality or do all that stuff. I just want to put stuff out here that I feel is useful and that I feel like can help other people when I have the time to do it. And so Instagram is more of my main focus. That's where I do a lot more of my business stuff for coaching and different stuff like that anyway. So I do want to apologize though for not providing any videos this last week. So we'll get into, and I'm going to title this video, How to Get Big Arms Naturally. I think that's a lot more catchy of a title. But what this video is not going to be is I'm not going to tell you necessarily what exercises specifically to be doing, because I think that's just kind of subjective. You could do a lot of different exercises to get big arms. It's just kind of more of the template or the philosophy behind it that you need to have to get big arms naturally, at least. So first thing I want to cover is just kind of my measurements to tell you or to kind of prove to you that I don't, and before I say, I know I don't have the biggest arms, I don't have the largest arms, I don't have the best physique, but I do have what I feel at least is a better than average physique. And so that's where I feel like I can kind of provide some details and provide some knowledge that I've used to get here. And then as I progress even further and get an even better physique, then I can give even more information to everybody. So I'll cover my measurements so that way you guys know that I'm not, and I mean, I guess you don't have to believe me, it's the internet, but I'll cover what my measurements are. I know they're true, and it'll just kind of help say that I'm at this measurement now, and so I've done something to get to this measurement. This is what I've done. Take from it what you will. So currently I have 16 and a half and 16 and 1/4 inch arms. This one is a little bit bigger than this one. It's kind of hard to see because it's not that big of a difference, but that's kind of natural in ways. You're gonna have a dominant arm. It's kind of weird that to me that it's my left arm because I'm right arm dominant with all things except dribbling a basketball. I shoot and dribble a basketball with my left hand. My lower arms, my forearm measurement is 13.25 for both. And my shoulder width all the way around my shoulders is 52 inches. So this is bulked up too, and so you could probably cut like half an inch for maybe some of that stuff if I was like lean. But I think it's still, I'm not at a crazy body fat percentage, so I still think it's fine that these are big measurements, and it's not like I have lunch lady arms. I've got crazy big, uh, a lot of fat that's adding to my arm mass. So let's go ahead and get into it. Those are my arm measurements. That's why I feel like I can kind of tell you guys some of the things that I've done to get big arms. So the first thing that you should be doing is if you're trying to take your arm training seriously, is you need to have a separate arm day on top of your normal training. So, having a separate arm day where if you're training 3 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week, 6 days a week is kind of weird to add an extra arm day because then you're training 7 days a week, and so you're not giving yourself a lot of recovery time. I'm going to cover that here in a minute, but so your shoulders, your biceps, triceps, and forearms recover fast enough that it's easy to add an arm day depending on your split. And then this is where I was talking about, if you're doing push-pull legs, you probably can't add an arm day. You could, but you're gonna lose something there. So either the first day of your push or the first day on your pull, depending on which one you put first, because it really doesn't matter in the long run of things. It's gonna affect your arm day that you put in there. So I don't think push-pull legs is the worst split. I don't like it necessarily. Personally, I don't like it. I think if you're training, period, that's amazing. So don't just stop doing that split because I said that. But I don't like push-pull legs personally. Plus, it keeps you in the gym 6 days a week. At this point, I don't think I need to be in the gym 6 days a week. 5 weeks is fine, or 5 days a week is fine. And so I'm able, if you're doing 5 days a week, you're able to add a 6th day to maybe where you're doing arms, which is good. But what I did is I'm training really 4 days a week with a 5th day on top of it. That's arm training. And actually, I'll tell you guys this is actually just like a little tidbit, a little sprinkle in there. I actually train 7 days a week. But what I do on some of my 2 off days is I do nucleus overload training just because I have all this garage gym equipment, and so I'm able to just kind of come out here and do it, and it doesn't really take me that much time. I could cover that a little bit more. I'm not putting that much stock into it, so I don't want to tell you guys to do it just because I haven't seen any results from it yet. It takes a while to kind of, you got to put some stock into it, put some time into it to actually see the results from it. So I don't want to tell you guys all about it and then get you guys hyped for it and then me do it, and I think it's completely worthless, and I wasted both of our times for 6 months of doing something that wasn't useful. But I technically train 7 days a week. I don't count those 2 days though, because it's not intense training. It's low intensity training. You're just kind of stacking more volume on top of it. So on this extra arm day, what you should be doing is sprinkling in some compounds on this day. So you're going to have them more focused around arms. So for example, doing a chin up, because that's going to be a lot more biceps than it is just doing a pull up would be. You're still going to have your pull ups being focused on your biceps, but a chin up is going to get a lot more bicep involvement in there. And doing something like close grip bench or dips for your chest, but really it's going to hit a lot of triceps as well. And especially on the dips, depending on how you do them, you can hit a lot of triceps. And then close grip bench, the closer your grip is, the more it's going to be hitting the triceps. So you don't want to get a crazy grip in there, but instead of keeping it wider, just more of a moderate close grip, something of that nature. Because we want to hit the arms a little bit more, but you can still get in some compound move too, and you're still going to get some chest out of it and some back out of it doing chin ups or doing close grip bench. So fill this day with arm exercises that target the muscles in the area that you want to grow the most. So another point to cover with this, most exercises will get you a similar result if it's targeting the same thing. So for example, doing behind the head dumbbell extensions. So doing dumbbell extensions where you have the dumbbell behind your head and you're doing that, or doing it with a cable. It's not the same exact thing. The tension curve is going to be different based on the cable, based on the dumbbell, but it's really going to get you, it's probably like an 80 to 90%, and these are just random numbers thrown out there. It's probably 80 to 90% that is going to get you most of the same thing. So choose an exercise that, for one, you like, because then you're going to stick to it and do it. You shouldn't always do what you like, though. You need to occasionally do things that you don't like to do, because you need to get better at things that you're not good at. But picking things that you like for this arm day is going to be a good thing, and most of it's going to get you similar results as long as it's targeting the muscle. So doing different types of curls, most of it's going to do the same thing. It's just which type of curl that you want to do. Trying to decide if you're going to do dumbbell hammer curls or cable hammer curls. Just do whichever one you prefer to do for now, and then you can switch over if that movement gets stale, or you don't really like it anymore, or whatever it is, then you can switch over to the other one. I was doing dumbbell hammer curls for a long time. Like, I've been doing them the last 3 or 4 months, and I'm just kind of getting sick of them now, and so I started doing cable hammer curls, even though I prefer dumbbells, but now I'm starting to prefer the cables just because the other one is just getting boring. At a certain point, training will get boring doing the same thing over and over and over for months and months and months. And so that's when it's okay to change. But you should be doing different, targeting the muscles. And so, especially on this arm day, a very good point to make is a lot of your presses won't hit your long head of the triceps, the part of the triceps that gives you that sweep and that's under there, the bigger part of the tricep. So on your arm day, a good thing to do, and you should be doing this throughout the week too, really, really with a lot of your tricep training, is trying to hit the long head. And so anything where your hands are behind your body, behind your head, is going to be hitting the long head of the triceps. So you should be doing a good amount of exercises like that. French press, skull crushers, behind the head, tricep extensions, things like that. So hitting the long head is very good on the arm day for your triceps. So my next point is use a variety of rep ranges. Use everything from 6 to 15. Obviously, you can go up to 20 to 30, but a sweet spot for me, and this is just personal, is not going above 15. Once I get above 15 reps, once I start getting close to 20, it's just, I'm just getting a pump, or it's hard for me personally to go to failure with 20 reps on doing arms, just because you start getting a pump and you start having to take a little mini break just because you're getting such a big pump. You should be training your arms still heavy. So you don't want to go up to 30 reps, because this is natural bodybuilding. You can go up to 30 reps and it's totally fine. But once you start, it's hard. The higher you go with reps, the harder it is to get to failure. So probably the more sets that you're going to have to do, just because you're further away from failure. So keep that in mind. You can do 20 to 30. I found a sweet spot for me is 6 to 15. 6 is pretty heavy, and so you're getting in a good, but it's not going all the way down to 1, 2, 3, 4, where you're getting extremely heavy, like you would for maybe some compounds getting down into the lower reps. And then 15 is still it's on the higher side, but it's not so high that you're just going to be basically doing more of an endurance or more pump work. Sorry, getting over allergies and stuff. But 15 is a good spot, is a sweet spot. But don't feel free to go above that, but just keep in mind that the pump is not the biggest thing. You'll probably get a pump from some of the training that you're doing on your arms, but that should not be your focus at all. If you get a pump, it's just kind of a bonus. You get to see your muscles a little bit bigger. It's awesome, whatever, but that's not your focus. So you got to train your arms heavy to grow them like any other muscle group. So I used to only do lighter work, and that it wasn't the biggest detriment, but I used to only do lighter work because my logic was on all the other days I'm doing heavier training, whatever. And so for my arm day, I'm going to do lighter training and essentially get the pump. And that wasn't doing anything for me. That's why I'm telling you guys not to do it, is focusing on the pump, because that didn't do a ton for me. That didn't get me to where my arms are now. It kept them at 15, 14 and a half inches. So Don't focus on the pump. Make sure that you're using a variety of those rep ranges to get in a good amount of heavy work as well. Your form should still be good, so you need to train heavy. So you need to go for some occasionally those 6, 8, 9, 10 reps. But your form should still be good. You should still be doing your curls with a strict form. You should still be doing your push downs with a strict form. We don't want to be we don't want to be part of the form police, but we still do want to make sure that the form is good. So being part of the form police and not letting your form break down at all is not where you want to be, and being so far on the side of it that you let your form break down and you're basically hitting your entire body instead of just isolating, like the exercise says, isolating with some of these movements, then you're doing it wrong if you're on either end of those far scales. So you still need to do some 10, like I said earlier, you need to do some 10 to 15 reps occasionally, as it will give your joints and your tendons a break from the heavy lifting. So 10 to 15 can still be heavy, but it's not nearly as heavy as doing 6. So doing 10 to 15 will also be nice because it's getting you, it's getting you a little bit closer to that pump area, and it's not going to be as much wear and tear on your joints and your tendons, which is going to give them kind of a break. So make sure to get in some of the higher reps. At the end of the day, pick what you want to do, but I would just say be wary and be cautious about doing the 20 to 30 reps for a lot of stuff. It shouldn't be the majority of your training. Have 1 or 2 exercises for your biceps and triceps. So 1 for each, maybe that's going up to 20 to 30 reps, but I would not put most of your stock into that. So your arm training should be done with the same effort as the rest of your training. And this is something that a lot of people mess up. Not to call out powerlifters, because I'm not a powerlifter. They're obviously a lot stronger than I am. But powerlifters are not focused on the physique part of it most of the time. They're just trying to get stronger. And so they don't care how their curl effort is. They're just trying to do the curls because that's their accessory work. They're just getting the work in, essentially. As a bodybuilder, what you need to do is you need to really care about your isolations. Your isolations are just as serious as your normal training. So for a powerlifter, for example, doing a deadlift is 90% of their training, and so they need to hit that deadlift. For a bodybuilder, doing a deadlift is going to be maybe 20, 30, 40% of their training, and then what's in the rest of the session is going to be the rest, is going to add up to that 100%. So doing, your curls on a certain day might be 20% of your training, where your other compound movements were also 20% of your training. So it all adds together, so you need to take your isolation training or your arm training just as seriously as other training. So what does that mean whenever I'm saying take it seriously? You should be doing arm isolation exercises. I had to say it just because some people might be like, well, I can just spam the compounds and do the compounds in a more isolation focused, so the close grips and the dips. But you need to be doing some type of isolation work. I had to say it. I feel like sometimes when I watch a video, or back in the day when I used to watch a video and somebody didn't directly say something, I didn't understand that. I didn't say, not that they were beating around the bush, but I just didn't understand that they didn't have to say it. It should be implied. So I just want to say that you should be doing arm isolation exercises, and that's exactly what it says on here. So you should be training close to failure, 0 to 2 reps. I put 0 to 2 reps as just kind of an objective thing. Arms are a lot easier to take to failure because you're doing isolations and it's not as heavy. It's still going to be heavy, but it's not as heavy as doing, a 225 bench as doing a 90-pound curl. It's not going to be nearly as heavy. So it's a lot easier to take to failure. In my opinion, it's a lot safer to take to failure. Doing a compound, doing a bench press, it's a lot easier to get pinned under there. But doing a curl, if you're not feeling it, it's not feeling good, or you can't get the rep, you can just set the bar down. You can just drop it down. And so it's a lot easier to go to failure as well. I think it's also mentally a lot easier to go to failure training your arms. And so I like to go, not always, but always like to go basically 0 to 1 and sometimes 2, but 0 to 1 reps to failure on arms, just because to me, that makes me feel like I've done a lot. You don't necessarily have to go to failure, so keep that in mind, but I like to go 0 to 2, like or 0 to 1 most of the time, and sometimes to 2, but I like to go right close to failure just because arms, that makes me feel like I'm doing a lot. I feel like I'm getting a lot out of it, but you should be somewhere close to failure. It doesn't have to be right up there to it. So don't just leave arms to the last part of your upper body days. And I used to do this. Let me finish, and I'll tell you exactly how I used to do it. So don't tire yourself out on torso training earlier in the session. So what I used to do with my training is I would do upper body and lower body. And lower body is very different than upper body. Lower body, you can do quads first. There's only so many muscles in your legs. This isn't keto, or this is not exact, because you guys know me. I'm a little bit more bro science than I am actual science. But you have your quads, your hamstrings, your glutes, your calves. You got a lot of other small muscles in there, but that's basically it for your legs. But what do you have on your upper body? You have your chest, you have your back, you have your lower back, you have all the muscles in your back. Whenever I just say back, there's tons of muscles in your back. Then you have your biceps, your triceps, your forearms, your shoulders, your traps, which kind of cover the back. But there's a ton in your upper body. So if you only train torso first, and by torso I just mean like chest and back, if you only do that first, you're going to be so tired by the time that you train your arms that you're still going to get in a decent arm training, but you're not going to get nearly as much stimulus as if you occasionally put some exercises a little bit sooner in your workout. So what I used to do is I did all my, I would do my benches, I would do my rows, I would do all that in the beginning, and then my last few exercises would be the shoulders, and then would be the biceps and triceps. And so the effort that I was putting into them was not the maximum that it could have been. So now what I do is I might do a, what would I do? So I might do a chest press, some type of incline press, and then at the same time I might hit rear delts because I'm able to get in more work. Doing a chest press and then rear delts, you literally it does not affect each other at all. So I might do rack pulls now, and then I might do curls with it because I'm using straps on the rack pulls, so my forearms are still fine. They're a little bit fatigued, of course, but doing a rack pull does not use your biceps at all. So keep that in mind. You should be putting where you can. You should be maybe programming some of the isolation exercises a little bit further up, and maybe it's going to take away from some of the other compounds that you're going to do later. Like obviously, if you do a tricep exercise early, and I can break down a video on exactly how to do this, so that way it won't affect it. But if you don't do it right, you can kind of affect the rest of your training. But it is very doable. It's something that you guys are able to do. And if you're experimenting with your training, like I've said before, and you're tracking your training, you'll be able to see this and make adjustments, and you guys will be able to nail it to a T at a certain point. So I can make an exact video if you guys are interested in that and how to break it down and how to actually set up your training like that to where it's not going to affect each other. Just let me know and I can do that. But put some of those isolation exercises earlier. Don't pick the lightest weights and go for the pump. You wouldn't do that to grow your quads. So just what I mean is with your arm training should be done like all the rest of your training. You would not go put the barbell on your back to do squats and only do those and do it to 30 reps and get a good pump and be like, bam, okay, I got it. That's quad growth. You would be like, okay, I've got to go in there. And it doesn't have to be exactly this, but a good example would be I'm going to go in there, do squats, hit 6 to 10 reps, and I'm going to hit just, 6 reps, or I'm going to go in there and I'm going to hit 8 reps, 7 reps, 6 reps. And that's hard training, that's heavy training, that's good training for your quads. So why would you go in there with your biceps and say, okay, I'm going to go pick up the 10 pound or even the 20 pound dumbbells, and I'm going to do 20 to 30 reps and get a good pump in, and then I'm going to go in there and do tricep extensions, and I'm going to use 50 pounds on the cable or on the cable machine. I'm going to use 60 pounds, get a good pump in, get 20 to 30 reps. You got to train your arms just the same way. The only muscle I think that is really different in your body is your calves, because your calves are very stubborn, and so that might take a lot more, not a ton of lightweight training, but a ton of training of just hitting them over and over and over again throughout the week. That's something that I'm working on now because like I told you guys in my previous calf video, don't cope about your calves. You can train them, and that's what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to blast them. I'm trying to figure out how to train my calves right to get them to grow. So you wouldn't don't train your arms like they're an entirely different muscle group at all, because they're just like a lot of the other muscle groups in your bodies. So I know a lot of people, I didn't say it earlier, a lot of people don't necessarily count shoulders in your arms, but I do because it is connected to your arms. Sometimes they just count shoulders as shoulders. They don't necessarily say arms, but I'm counting that as well. So shoulders, it goes the same thing. You should be training your shoulders heavy with some type of pressing movement, and then you can add on some more isolation work of side and rear delts. A lot of rows are going to hit your rear delts as well, and so you need to make sure you're doing some type of rows, something like that where you're pulling, because that's going to be hitting your rear delt, and then you're going to add in some more rear delt isolation on top of that. So that is basically all the points that I had to cover. Now I just have what I call my last few tidbits, just a few things that I want to cover to kind of put the icing on the cake and finish this up for you guys. So being on a bulk will aid a ton in putting on mass on your arms. Don't giga bulk though. You don't. We want muscular arms. We don't want lunch lady arms, like I was talking about earlier. So I've put on 20 pounds in the last year. I went from 180 something pounds. I weighed myself this morning and I weigh 205. And so part of me adding so much mass to my arms has been a slow and controlled bulk. And it depends on who you are. Whenever I was a lot skinnier, I could have probably bulked a lot faster. But now I'm finding kind of being a little bit more methodical about it is helping me out a ton. And so that doesn't, not doing a giga bulk doesn't mean bulking, adding 1 pound per year, obviously. But it means being in a controlled surplus and making sure that you're watching your body weight. Especially a good thing to do is doing body weight movements will make you watch your body weight, because if you add 10 pounds in 5 weeks, then your body weight movements are going to start to suffer. So that's one thing that I've noticed over this last year has been really good, is doing a bunch of these body weight movements. I've been doing a lot of chin-ups. Recently, I've started getting into doing dips. I've never been a very big dip guy, but I got a machine here at the house now where I'm able to do dips, and I want to start doing those to strengthen my triceps and my chest a little bit more. But doing your body weight movements won't let your body weight get out of control. So we want to do a good controlled bulk because we want big muscular arms. We don't want lunch lady arms. So keep that in mind to not let the bulk just take over and go far. Track your weight, keep an eye on it, and just kind of, take some progress pictures as you're going over the months, over the year, so that way you can keep a close eye on it. Now I would take some arm measurements as well. I didn't put that in here actually, but I would take arm measurements so that way you can actually measure your arms and see how big they're getting. So I didn't cover how many sets to do because it's very individual. Start small and progress as you see, as you feel your body adapts. So I personally do well with moderate sets and pushing very close to failure. Usually, like I said, within that 0 to 1, occasionally the 2. But I didn't put the set numbers because I can't tell you go out there and do 16 sets for your biceps, go out there and do 17 for your triceps, and go out there and do 20 for your shoulders of all heads. Split it up however you will. Just because that's not, I can't do that. I don't know you personally. I don't know anything about you. I don't know your training history. I don't know your injury history. I don't know anything like that. So you're going to have to experiment yourself and try and see what works best for you. So that way you know how to, or how many sets are going to get you to that point of, just sore enough that you're like, okay, that was enough work. And then, you're going to work past that point where like, okay, I can do a little bit more. I can do a little bit more. This week, actually, I need to do a little bit less. That's one thing recently that I've been doing is trying to figure out, doing a lot more auto regulation with my volume of saying, I think that's enough sets. Like I feel like I've done enough sets instead of just always doing more sets saying, no, I've got to do more. I've got to do the most that I can. And then occasionally being like, I feel like I can do more sets. So I'm going to do an extra set here. I'm going to do the 4th set here. I'm going to do the 5th set here. Don't really do 5 sets at all. It's very, 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 very rare. I don't think I've done a 5th set in like 7 or 8 months. But if I ever feel like it, then I can do the 5th set. So just experiment on yourself and see what volumes are going to work best for you. Gotta make sure that's still on. I don't think I charged it. So you can try intensity techniques like length and partials. I'm experimenting with them myself, but I don't put a ton of stock into it. So I've been messing with them on triceps and occasionally on calves, but I've really been messing with them on triceps. But I can't say that doing just length and partials has been what's been giving me a lot of tricep growth. I've grown my triceps a ton in the last year, but I've also been bulking. I've been doing the normal compound movements. I've been doing the normal isolation movements, nothing fancy. So I can't say that doing length and partials is what did it. I can't tell you guys that, but you guys can try it. So if you think that that might be something that you like, what I like to do, and let me tell you exactly how I do it, so that way I can say it's not most of my training. I rarely do length and partials. So let me tell you exactly how I do it. Is if I'm doing a tricep push down or an overhead extension with a cable, what I'll do is I'll do all of my sets normally. I'll get it done, go very close to failure on my sets. And then on my very last set, what I'll do is I will complete the set and I will get whatever amount of reps that I'm able to get, and then I will hold it, and then I will do just a few. I don't necessarily count the reps. I'm not trying to track whatever I'm doing for the length and partials. I'm going to do a few more until I basically can't do it anymore on length and partials. You can give that a try. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. I'm not saying you have to do that, but that's why I've been experimenting with length and partials to try and see if it's going to get me anything. But most of my gains, most of what I've done is going to come from the normal training. It's not going to come from that. That's just kind of something I'm personally experimenting with, but just kind of a tidbit for you guys to add on to it. So the same goes with other intensity techniques, drop sets, Myo reps, rest pause. Excluding rest pause is very great for squeezing in a few more reps. It's the highest on my list personally for intensity techniques. So if you've been stuck at a particular, especially for arms, if you've been stuck at 6 reps for your biceps, rest pause is a very good thing to use. I put it higher than length and partials, but doing rest pause, if you've been stuck at 6 reps for 2 or 3 weeks, what you can do is do your 6 reps, wait, give yourself a little bit of a break, and then get a few more reps. So that's going to help you out. I'm not going to tell you guys how to track it just because I haven't found the best way personally yet for me to track that and say, okay, well, I did 2 more reps, so obviously that's 8 reps. But was it really 8 reps because you had to wait to get those 8 reps? It wasn't 8 straight reps. So I'm not going to tell you guys exactly how to track it. I'm still trying to figure that out. But occasionally for me, if my triceps are stalling out doing a push down, what I'll do is I'll do all my reps, or I'll do a bunch of the reps, and then I'll just put it I'll let it go up, and I'll wait for just a second, get a I'll get a good feeling for my hands. Like I'll give my hands a break essentially, because sometimes that that tricep rep's pushing pretty hard on your hands. I'll give it a little bit of a break, and then I'll go back at it. And that's been something that's kind of been helping me progress, because if I've had to do that for 1 or 2 weeks, then usually by the next time I'm doing it for the 3rd or 4th week, I'm able to actually progress and do the amount of reps without having to take a rest pause stance on it. So that could be another thing that you guys can do. But don't put all of your stock into intensity techniques. Your training should mostly be straightforward in the normal way to do it. I haven't done a drop set. I did one today, so I can't say that. but I haven't done a drop set in a very long time. I did it today because I needed to cut my training a little bit short, but that was totally fine. I didn't do it. It's not like I'm doing them every workout. I did it because I needed to cut my training short and I wanted to get in a little bit of extra. So I did a drop set on the leg press at the gym. So I haven't done my reps. I don't think ever. Maybe I've done them once, but I don't really remember. I haven't really done my reps. But that's not where most of my size. That's not where most of your size is probably going to come from. Is any of these intensity techniques? So keep that in mind. So track your lifts that you're growing your arms with so you can assess progress over time. And these lifts are going to change from time to time, but tracking your lifts in general is going to help. So I've been doing, for example, I've done bicep curls with a barbell. I've been doing those, the same exercise for a while now, and I've been able to track that. And so eventually I'm going to have to change that out. It's going to get stale. I'm going to have some joint issues. It's going to start to bother my elbows. It might start to bother whatever. So I eventually have to change it out, but I've been tracking it, so I know I've made progress on it. So just different things like that. Whatever you're doing, exercise you're doing, make sure you're tracking so that way you know you're making progress on them. So the very last tidbit I have for you guys, because this is something I've been running into recently and I want you guys to watch out for, so that way you guys can continue to progress and you guys won't have to slow down a little bit or kind of make adjustments and try to figure stuff out like I will, or that I'm doing right now. But watch out for elbow and shoulder issues as you progress in strength. These things can stall your arm development if you ignore them. So I was getting some shoulder issues. I was doing a lot of barbell shoulder press just because that's what I have access to in the home gym, and so that's what I was doing. I don't have heavy enough dumbbells, and actually now I've got some heavier dumbbells. I need to get some better weights to use with it, but I was doing the barbell shoulder press, and that obviously that locks your arms into a certain range of motion or a certain it guides your arm in a very certain way. Bro science, not a smart guy. It guides your arm in a very certain way, and it was giving me a lot of elbow issues because it was just making my forearm and my wrist just turn a certain way. And I kind of ignored it, which is very stupid. Don't do that. I ignored it for 2 to 3 weeks. And I didn't get injured, luckily, but I'm starting to get some pain, and now I've kind of built up a little bit of tendonitis in my elbow a little bit. It's okay because I'm still able to train, and if it hurts, I just kind of back off the training. But if I would have listened to my body a little bit sooner and switched out that exercise and figured out something else to do that wouldn't have bothered it, I would have saved myself that trouble. So that came from training shoulders, but you can do the same thing whenever you're doing your triceps and your biceps. You can get tendonitis from doing certain things or from overdoing certain things. So doing the same exercise for a while or doing the same exercise wrong for a while. So keep that in mind. You want to keep your shoulders healthy. I luckily haven't been having any shoulder issues. I had a shoulder injury years ago, but that hasn't flared up really. But making sure that you're doing, some internal rotations as well of your shoulders to keep them nice and healthy. Making sure that you're doing just moving. One thing, and this is just a generalized advice, one thing that I've found very well for me over the last few years is just trying to move my body and train every muscle so that way that everything is going to be, I'm not going to have a weak point. Even though maybe it'll be like not as developed, I still want everything to have a good strength and base on it so that way I don't have a weak point. Didn't train my hamstrings very hard or my back very hard my first few years of training. And I feel like that gave me some hamstring tightness, some issues, and some lower back issues. So making sure that you're doing your arm, this is back to arm training, making sure that you're doing your arm training and doing a variety of exercises, tracking those exercises, not always switching them, but making sure that you're doing a few different ones a week so that way you're not hitting the same exact point over and over and over again is going to be very good for your longevity and your arm health. So that's basically all I had for you guys. I'll let you guys go. Hopefully next week I'll be out with another video. If you guys have any requests for videos, shoot me something over on Instagram or leave me a comment down here below. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm going to try, like I said, to get out videos. This isn't my top priority, but if you guys subscribe and kind of let me know what you guys want, that'll kind of give me a little bit more feedback of this is what people are wanting, and so I do need to put a little bit more effort in here. If you guys are interested in coaching or anything like that, go check out my Instagram. It's the same thing as the channel. It's Burnett Basics, no capitals, anything like that. I post a lot more anime content over there, kind of anime fitness related content. If you guys are looking for, like I said, if you guys are looking for coaching too, just head over there and shoot me a DM and we can work together or anything like that. Or if you just want to ask questions, even generalized training questions, that always, that gives me some more content to make so that way I can inform more people overall. So I'll let you guys go with this video, and I hope you guys have a good day.